It is so nice to have you join us in today's edition of Making Impact on Radio Nigeria Highland 101.5 FM Jos. My name is Frida Axon, and with me in today's edition is Dr. Ene George from the Obstetric Fistula Surgical Therapy and Rehabilitation Project, California, USA, and Dr. Sunday Lengmang, Fistula Surgeon and Project Director, Evangelical Vesico Vaginal Fistula Center, Bingham University Teaching Hospital, Jos. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Like I said today, it's making impact. Dr. Ene George, can you please tell us a little about what you do?
Okay, so my name is Dr. Ene George. I am a urogynecologic pelvic surgeon from California, in the US, and for about 11 years have been partnering with Dr. Sunday Lengmang of Evangel Hospital Vesico Vaginal Fistula Center. What I do is come during the high surgical period, which is the fistula reunion that happens in the month of March every year for the past 27 years, to lend my hands surgically, and also to provide surgical supplies and whatever help and moral support for the center and the women in the center and the staff and Dr. Lengmang.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lengmang. Now, can you tell us which you're into?
Well, I am primarily a family physician, but through my training at Evangel Hospital, that's now Bingham University Teaching Hospital, I came across these women with fistula who are so poor that they cannot help themselves. So on graduating as a fellow, as a consultant, I decided to take special training in VVF surgery, and since 2004 I have been running the center. Essentially what I do first is to raise support from people like Ene George and other centers like Fistula Foundation, and raise the money that I need to treat these women since they cannot help themselves. Then I turn around and get the patients and work on them and operate them surgically, and then we provide free meals for them to be able to go through the difficult time of surgery. And after that, we also rehabilitate women that have fistula or that have been successfully treated. Recently, we noticed that working in the area of treatment and rehabilitation was not enough, so we now started treating healthcare workers on how to prevent fistula, and we also are now training other doctors from other parts of the country on how to repair fistula.
Okay, so Dr. Lengmang, you talk about rehabilitation. So after the rehabilitation, what next?
After the rehabilitation, we tend to look for some form of support for the women. Okay. In our center, we train the women in knitting, in sewing, in making some pastries, and baking and things like that. And after they have graduated, we give them some token amount of money to be able to try to set up. We've not been very successful in that, but we're still making a lot of effort to get much more to be able to help these women. Last year, for instance, we had a partnership with some students from UK in University of Hull, and they were able to just contribute little money, and from that we were able to get sewing machine and knitting machine that we gave these women to go and start a means of livelihood in their communities. In this year, 2018, we're working with Fistula Foundation, also in California, USA, to develop a form of an agricultural improvement so that the women can learn simple things to improve farming within their local communities, so that they can also be helped with improved seed varieties and also fertilizers or fertigation that will help them to have higher yields at what they're already doing in their communities.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Dr. Lengmang. And back to you, Dr. Ene George. You talked about you based in the US.
Yeah.
So why the choice of Plateau State?
Well, this is home for me. I was born in Jos. I was born 5 miles from Evangel Hospital. And I also trained at the University of Jos. So it's home. The one thing that's kind of really impacted me was how little I knew about vesicovaginal fistulas, even growing up in this society. And I actually started my relationship with Dr. Lengmang from reading an American obstetric journal one afternoon. And there was an article about the women of Evangel. And that kind of like struck me like, I know that hospital, I know this place, I know these women. And I did not know that this was such a huge problem in my community. And so that really rocked my boat. And with finding that out, I reached out to Dr. Lengmang, who was absolutely like easy, receptive. And I came back. My first trip was in 2009, right?
2009, yeah.
And 2009. And when I saw the scope of the problem, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming to me. And at the end of my very first day in surgery, I wasn't sure that I wanted to come back and do this. I wasn't sure that I would ever make a difference, or that anybody, any single person could make a difference or enough of an impact. But at the same time, I could not unsee or unknow what I now knew. And I knew that, you know, I had to do something, even if it was one person's life that was changed by the little I did. I had to do something. And since then, you know, I've been working with Dr. Lengmang.
Okay, so in the project of the Obstetric Fistula Surgical Therapy and Rehabilitation Project, what are the activities involved?
So our activities are mainly fundraising. Okay, we need to be able to raise enough funds so that we can provide supplies for the Fistula Center and for the women. Like Dr. Lengmang said, this is one of the few centers where the women, all they need to do is get to the center. And if they get to the center, they can be assured of free surgical care, free pre-surgical care, surgical care, post-surgical care, and rehabilitation. Okay, they're given 3 square meals a day. They are operated on free. Their medications are free. They don't have to spend any money. But the money has to come from somewhere. The supplies have to come from somewhere. The expertise has to come from somewhere. And so the goal of the OFSTAR Project is to be able to raise enough funds to help, you know, the funds that the Fistula Center gets from other donors, so that these women can continue to get the same level of care that they deserve without any interruption.
Okay, so does this your collaborations?
Yeah.
Do you have collaborations with other organizations?
So we're a fledgling foundation. We are actually 2 years old. Okay, we have been doing, my husband and myself have been doing this work out of pocket by ourselves since 2009. So we have been using our own financial means and, you know, having to recover for that. And I think it was in 2014 that we sat down, and because my husband thinks of numbers, we figured out that just the 2 of us could not sustain what we were doing. And there's a saying that, you know, the power of one is limited, but the power of many is huge. And the only way that we could get more people involved was to start a foundation so that people would feel comfortable, you know, donating. That way they know where their donations are going, as opposed to just giving a donation to an individual and you have no way of tracing your donations. And so we set up the OFSTAR Project so that we could get more help from more people.
Okay, so how do you raise funds for this program?
Well,
this project?
Before I get into that, I think we need to talk a little bit about what the OFSTAR Project is doing.
Okay.
And before that project, Ene was and her husband. Just to give us a little example, we had just 3 sets of surgical instruments, and by 2009, the very first time she came, she was able to provide 6 other sets of surgical instruments. Now we have 9, and the interpretation of that is that we can do up to 9 VVS surgeries now in a day, against the 3 that used to be. And we built the project from around 200 patients being operated in a year to about 450 patients operated in a year here, and another 100 patients operated as I travel out for outreaches. So it's a very strong and a big collaboration that we have with her. Also, I go on outreaches quite a lot, and we've been out with them to southern Nigeria and we hope to have more in the future. Each place we go, one of the biggest problem is having the right kind of suture to use, which is very difficult to access in country. She provides that for us, and we use it not only in Jos, but also in other centers when we travel. Now, how do we raise funds? We raise funds by partnering with people like her, by writing for projects to organizations like Fistula Foundation Nigeria. We also write grants proposal to places like CBM, Christopher Blinded Mission, not Central Bank of Nigeria, and SIM and African Mission Healthcare Foundation. So anywhere we check the internet,
SIM, sorry.
SIM is
Sudan
like,
Interior
started
Mission.
as a Sudan Interior Mission, then the Society for International Mission.
Okay.
Now they are just SIM with no meaning.
Okay.
But they're still here working in Nigeria, and they continue to fund us. We also approach philanthropists. We've written a proposal to the T.Y. Danjuma Foundation before. So anywhere we find that there are people of goodwill that want to help in the women, we're able to do it. We also have individuals like the women groups like the NAFOA Women Fellowship, and individual women that just walk up to us and give us contribution. So we are not just limited to doing it from abroad, we are also doing it in country. We are talking to individuals, and we're trying to see if banks and other institutions can contribute through their corporate social responsibilities.
Okay, wow. So Dr. Ene George, can you tell us some of the challenges you face in the course of running this project?
So I think that one of the major things is because I live in the United States, just raising awareness about this problem. It's such a different world that people do not even understand what a vesicovaginal fistula is or how it impacts the lives of the women here. And so just raising awareness so that people in the first world are aware that, you know, our sisters in the third world are living in a condition that is unimaginable to them, and getting them aware enough to feel a certain connection, and so that they're willing to support and you know, give donations to help this project. It's been a learning. I don't know anything about like a foundation or raising funds. So for me, one of the challenges has been learning how to, you know, ask for donations or raise awareness enough to get donations or write grants. So these are things that I don't know, and I'm having to like figure out as I go along.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dr. Lengmang, can you tell us some of the challenges you face in the course of running this project?
Well, the big challenge that we have is that we are working with people who are mostly rural dwelling, illiterates and poor. And so it's difficult sometimes to even communicate with them, and it's difficult for them to understand what you're trying to drive at. There are times, interesting times, that we need to go through two interpreters to be able to get to the patient. So two people in between us, and you know, by the time information goes in and passes through different people, it becomes corrupted, or they subtract some of the things. So sometimes it's difficult for us getting clear understanding so that we'll be able to help the patients. Secondly, Nigeria has the highest prevalence of fistula in the world, and with poverty appearing to be on the increase, we're tending to see more patients, and we're tending to see very complicated patients. Now, very few people are interested in VVF. In Nigeria, we have not more than 30 surgeons that are really working in this area of fistula, and so we tend to get overworked. So times that Ene George and her husband and other doctors visit us, they are very important times for us to be able to have some relief, and also to be able to have ideas about newer techniques that can help us to achieve our results among the patient. Third is the issue of the fundraising. We've been raising funds. We have excellent funding right now, but the problem is increasing. as you get more funding, you now realize you have attracted more patients. What do you do with the extra patients? So if there was a way that we could have some form of relationship with government, since we are doing something in support of the health system in Nigeria, to be able to give us some ongoing support, that will also be welcome. So essentially, these are the challenges that we have. Sometimes, in rare cases, we desire that we have some form of investigation, some form of equipment that can help us to identify key areas of problems within the patient, and we don't have that kind of support in country. And there are some situations where we need something we call urodynamics that is not readily available in Nigeria, but it will help us to be able to help some patients that you have closed the fistula but they still have incontinence. It helps you to know exactly what the problem is so that you'll be able to get the specific intervention. So these are among the complications, the challenges that we have in Nigeria.
Okay, so in all this, Dr. Ene, what is the fulfillment you derive in doing this?
I don't think that there are very many situations where you can actually give back or do something and expect nothing in return. As human beings, we usually have a give and take type relationship, and it doesn't always have to be monetary. Okay, this opportunity allows me to give back to my country, my community, my sisters, and I don't expect them to be able to do anything or give anything back to me, but they give me so much more. When I walk into Evangel Hospital, it's like coming home. All the staff are always excited to see me. They have accepted me as part of them and as, family. They have accepted my husband, who's not even Nigeria, we come here and they tell him welcome home. And the patients that we work with are happy to see us. And that fulfillment is not something that you can put a finger on. Okay, so yes, I come and I bring things that are material and myself or my love, but I get so much more back emotionally and spiritually, and it gives me that joy and the ability to be a doctor. We all go into medicine because we want to help people. Well, with doing this, I can actually say I make a difference in somebody's life, and I'm just doing it. And some of these people may never remember me, they may not know me, and I don't expect anything back, but I get so much more back. More than you can put in words.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And back to you, Dr. Dr. Lengmang.
Yeah.
What fulfillment do you derive in doing all this, despite the challenges you face?
Well, the ability to take care of people who cannot give back to you, I think, is a very important one. I derive the pleasure of seeing women's life being transformed. It's like I went down south in Nigeria and I got a patient that had inoperable fistula, could not be operated at all. She came and met me in Jos and we did a urinary diversion for her. She went back home and I got a text from the husband. Thank you, Dr. Lengmang, for saving my marriage. I get women who were at the point of committing suicide because there was nothing that could be done to help them, and they get well and they jump all so excitedly. They now break. People who were depressed, were not even eating, people who have taken cement to end of their life, and they are also suddenly excited because they are now free of the scourge of fistula. I see women coming back many years to say, Dr. Lengmang, look at your child. Look at your child. It's because you were able to do this surgery that was able to give birth to this child. They have named people after our names. Even Dr. Shepherd that came from the US, many people are bearing Dr. Shepherd because of this contribution. So yes, it may not be in material gift, it may not be in money, but the kind of joy and the transformation that you see in the lives of the women that we help is immeasurable. And that is what makes me to move on.
Well, that's nice. So now let's go on a break. We will be back shortly. Welcome back. For arts, sponsorship, comments, or if you know anyone who is making an impact in people's lives, do contact us on the number 080 087 The number again, 0807 79 or visit our station located within the premises of NTA College, Rayfield, Jos. And if you're just joining us, it is Making Impact on Radio Nigeria Highland 101.5 FM Jos. And we are discussing on the projects from Dr. Ene George and Dr. Lengmang on physical vaginal fistula. From Dr. Ene George is from the Obstetric Fistula Surgical Therapy and Rehabilitation Project, California, USA, and Dr. Sunday Lengmang is from Fistula is a fistula surgeon and project director, Evangelical Vesico-Vaginal Fistula Center, Bingham University Teaching Hospital, Jos. And it's been a very, very awesome time, and we're still on the program. So stay tuned and follow us to the end. So, back to you, Dr. Ene. How are you able to achieve all this projects? Do you have a support staff, or you do all this alone, just you and your husband? Are you able to achieve this?
So, yes, I have support staff.
Okay.
That is my husband, Atiro Jacoby. I have one support staff, and then there's me. So I do this in my spare time. I have a full-time job, and the good thing about living in California, and yes, there's a time difference. So when you guys are asleep, I'm awake, and when you guys are awake, I'm asleep. And so trying to communicate with Dr. Lengmang, it's kind of like we have like our little windows of time when we can communicate, but also there's the internet, there's email, there's text, and we're able to throughout the year communicate and work around that. But the OFSTAR project, like I said, is fledgling, it's very new, and we're not big enough to afford to pay anybody, because any funds that we have, we want to channel into actually getting it down to where we want it to be, which is helping these women. So for now we have 2 unpaid staff members, maybe 3 unpaid staff members, because there's me, there's my husband, and we have someone else who sometimes helps us.
Okay, so back to you, Dr. Sunday Lengmang. Apart from the people from Bingham Teaching Hospital, do you have support staff?
Well, the Evangel VVF Center is like a special unit of the Bingham University Teaching Hospital. So we have our own special site where their offices are. We have a different surgery department, that is the theater. We have a different clinic, and we have another site where we do the rehabilitation center. So actually we have about 30 staff that are just purely Evangel VVF Center staff, and we work just within that unit. But we still have a kind of connection with the hospital, because we do all the work. The hospital supplies all the supplies apart from what we get from outside the country. The hospital gives us a bill, and we raise a check to pay them. And out of what we pay them, they pay our staff. So it's like we are not directly under the table, but we are kind of enjoying a kind of relationship like that. But apart from that, we have partners from the US. We partner with her, and on coming this time around, they were able to assist us tremendously, because they were able to bridge a gap with Direct Relief. Direct Relief has been trying to give us support, but they couldn't. But through the OFSTAR Project, we were able to get it this time around. And I also am a visiting consultant to the National VVF Hospital in Abakaliki. I also collaborate with the UN. I have been to Maiduguri a number of times to help to work in this area. So we have some kind of loose supports with other centers, different parts of the country, and then in country.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sunday Lengmang. Dr. Ene, I wanted to say, is it only in Jos? Do you render the services only in Jos? And how often do you render the services?
So I'm going to say most of my work has been through Evangel Hospital in Jos. I have also been to Kenya, to Nakuru and Kisumu to help with VVF work there. I usually come once a year during the reunion because Evangel Hospital is one of the very few fistula centers, if not the only one, that does a reunion for the patients. So what that means is that every year in March, on the second Saturday of the year, the women come back. And they come back to celebrate their being dry, as we say in the fistula world, when they're not leaking anymore. But it also provides a means for the center to do follow-up and continued care for these women. And during that period, they bring a lot of other women, because then they know that there's a place where they can get help, and when they go back to their communities, they seek out other women like themselves who have this condition, and they bring new patients with them. So this is the time of the year where the hospital has its highest surgical volume, and so that's when I usually come, and that's in March. So I usually come once a year in March.
Okay. Back to you, Dr. Lengmang. How often do you render these services? And then is it just you talked about going to Abakaliki? Can you talk us through some of the states you have been to render these services, and how often do you render these services?
Well, at Evangel VVS Center, I'm not the only surgeon. I've trained several other people that are working with me. Currently, we have 4 surgeons working, although one is currently in the US for a program. Okay. So I'm saying that because I travel a lot. We provide a service 247. So every month, every week, we provide services. We operate like 2 times every week. We run clinic once in a week. We do ward rounds and other services. But in the month of March, when Dr. Ene and her group visits, we operate every day after reunion for about 2-3 weeks. So that's what we do in the center. Our services are provided all the time. Even during public holidays, if it matches with our clinic day or surgery day, we continue to provide our services because most of our patients are illiterate, like I said, and from rural areas. Some travel, even outside Nigeria. We've had patients from Cameroon, Chad, Nigeria Republic, and Benin Republic that are surrounding us. So when they come, it will be difficult for them if they are not able to meet us. So even during public holiday, we provide the services for that. Now, apart from that, I happened also to be a member of the National Technical Working Group with the Federal Ministry of Health on the treatment and prevention of obstetric fistula in Nigeria. And because of that contact, we've now come to know that I have area of expertise, so I tend to be invited by other centers. The National VVF Center in Abakaliki is one of such centers, and because I go there so frequently and they've discovered that I could do a lot more because we are a much older center than theirs, they've offered me the position of a visiting consultant. So I'm now like part of their temporary staff, so to say. But apart from that, we also have the first VVF hospital in Nigeria that is at Uyo, a Catholic VVF hospital and family health center. Unfortunately, they don't have a full-time resident fistula surgeon, so I go to provide the surgery along with my friend, the CMD of Abakaliki, 4 times in a year. And by 7th of April, I'll be down there at Uyo for like 10 days. Then I'll go to Abakaliki and come back. I've also established a VVF work at Yola in Adamawa State. I started again in 2009 with the support from the Christopher Blended Mission. And I've worked at the Kano VVF Hospital. I've also worked at Jigawa VVF Center. I visited the Bauchi Center. I've also been to Sokoto and also to Birnin Kebbi. I've been to Ogoja too to work there, and last year I went to Calabar for the first time. So I've actually been to every part of the country and have also gone beyond. I regularly visit the Danja Fistula Hospital in Nigeria Republic. I've also been to Madagascar, I've been to Cameroon, and I've been to Congo to work on VVF on the Mercy Ship. So it's all within and without.
Wow. So in all this, Dr. Ene George, how far has this project helped the patients of the VVF? How far has it helped?
I think that that would be a question that Dr. Lengmang would be
Yes,
more,
so come, he
more
will, I
able to
wanted.
answer, because it's difficult for me to see like the impact. Like I had no idea about what he said about the surgical trays being 3 and so many years ago, about 6 more now they can do. I didn't know that. So I'm hoping that this project has changed many lives, but I don't know how many lives. I do know that with the ability for the center to continue running and to have the equipment and the resources that they need to do the work on this women, that it's impacting lives and it's changing lives. But to give you like a number or tell you exactly what it's has done over the years, I'd be lying if I told you that I know. Okay. Because I don't.
So Dr. Lengmang, can you...
Like I said earlier on, last year we repaired 453 patients in Jos and another 100 during my outreach programs. This year we are hoping to repeat something like that, but most likely we'll be able to reach the 500 mark here in Jos, apart from the other 100 that we do outside. So it's a very big problem. It's a very big achievement that we're making. For the past 27 years, we've operated about 10,500 patients now, and we've rehabilitated so many others. The rehabilitation program has not been as successful as we wanted, because we prefer to say if we've operated 300 women, we can for sure say what those 300 women are doing. But there are some isolated success stories. There are some women that have gone to pick up employment in local governments. There are those that have started their shop and they are also training others on what to do. And there are about 3 of such patients that we have employed at Bingham University Teaching Hospital. They are now our staff, working as attendants and as aides. So there has been remarkable improvement. In fact, we did a follow-up visit to a village in Gombe State, and we met a woman who, because of the rehabilitation program and the seed stock that we gave her some loan, just about 50,000 naira. It has transformed her socio-economic life, and she is contributing even more to the family than her husband is contributing. So she's become much more valuable to the home than she used to be. So there are isolated stories about what has been done, but we are hoping to do a more focused study to follow up patients and see exactly what has happened to their lives. I have patients that have come with up to 5 children that they delivered after a successful VVS surgery. So many women have been able to do that successfully. And before I forget, we also provide that free service. If a woman had a successful VVS surgery, she should not deliver normally through the spontaneous vaginal delivery. She should deliver subsequently by cesarean section, else the problem may recur, or it may even be worse. For the patients that we operate, we offer them free cesarean section, provided they are able to access care in our hospital. And that has given us a lot of joy to see. The first thing, it was a woman trying to get a child, which is a natural expectation of every community, every society, and then interrupted with this tragedy. And we are able to restore life, and then they go on to have their children. Our joy is complete.
Wow. Wow. This is interesting. Thank you, Dr. Lengmang. So how can Dr. Ene George be contacted?
So the OFSTAR Project is an established foundation. You can find us online at www.theofstarproject.org. We also have a Facebook page where you can follow us. It's called the OFSTAR Project. So we're very easy to find.
Okay. Yeah. And what about you, Doctor?
Evangel Hospital is well known to people here. It's otherwise called the Jankwano Hospital. Now it's Bingham University Teaching Hospital. So which of the names that you have will bring you there? We're in 23 Zaria Bypass, just near the Polo Field. And anytime a woman with fistula comes in, all she needs to do is to buy a card, go and see them, the OPD, and as soon as they are sure it's VVF, they send us to us. And thereafter, she does not pay a single kobo for all the care that she receives.
Wow, that's nice. Wow. It's really been an awesome time, and we are about drawing the curtains of today's edition. This is how far we can take, and but before we do that, Dr. Ene George, can you give us an advice to the public?
Obstetric fistulas are completely preventable. They should not exist in our society today. So, if you know anybody who has a fistula, if you are a mother or a father and you have young daughters, let them go to school, let their bodies develop, let them get married at the right age, not too early. If you know anybody who is pregnant, advise them to have adequate prenatal care if they can get access. If you know people in the villages who have home births, tell them that they should not be in labor for anything longer than 24 hours, because those are the things that will endanger them. I would also like people to know that Evangel Hospital provides a place that is safe and it's kind and it's nurturing for these women. So if you know of anybody, they should not be afraid, they should not be ashamed, they should come and they will be welcome, and we will do everything possible to give them the dignity that they deserve back.
Okay, so Dr. Sunday Lengmang, what advice do you have for the public?
My advice is that women should not deliver unattended. They should deliver in the hospital. And for those who have already had this problem, let them access our free services. Okay. We have taken a second step by going to communities. By Sunday, 24th to 31st, we'll be visiting Nigeria State in Alushi Hospital to offer services. Mm-hmm. And we are also trying to extend our services to the North Central and the Southern Senatorial zones in Plateau, that is Mangu and Shendam, so that we'll be able to take the services closer to people. When that becomes possible, they should not shy away from accessing the qualities of services that we provide for free.
Wow. Thank you. We have come to the end of today's edition. Many thanks for listening. And today's edition, it's been a wonderful time, interesting and very educative time with Dr. Ene George from the OFSTAR Project, the Obstetric, Fistula Surgical Therapy and Rehabilitation Project, California, USA. Thank you for your time. And Dr. Sunday Lengmang from he's the Fistula Surgeon and the Project Director, Evangelical Physical Vaginal Fistula Center, Bingham University Teaching Hospital. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And is it Dr. George or Mr. George?
Mr. Jacoby.
Okay, Mr. Jacoby. Okay, thank you for your time too. Thank you. Do join us next week, same day, same time, for another interesting edition of the program Making Impact. Thank you to our studio manager, Mr. Peter Gonji, our Fidelis Alamba. I am Frida Axon, leaving you with this parting. Well, do have a great afternoon. Thank you.